be recording this webinar.
Keeping the style.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure and a privilege, to have the such a wonderful audience with us. And I wish you a happy holidays to everyone. And I'm so grateful and thankful to all of you that you have taken the time. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to this critical and timely webinar on cybersecurity in the digital and AI driven world. As we all know, whether you're a small business owner safeguarding your growing enterprising or a high net worth individual protecting personal and professional assets, today's conversation is designed with you all in mind. I'm thankful to Kanapati ji, who is with us today. He's the president and CEO of Mercury Consulting, and also he's the president of Teams Global, which is an association of Tamil entrepreneurs. And we are also grateful to Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, who is kind enough to have his gracious presence today. But they're all voting for the budget tonight, and he's not sure at what time he get a call. But then he was kind enough to send his video message to all of us, and we will be playing this video shortly. And we are so blessed that we have Ravi Vishwanathan, who will be our keynote speaker, and it will be moderated by my colleague and the General Secretary of Global Indian Diaspora. This program is, the brainchild of Abhinav Raina ji, Kanapati ji, Ravi, and we all thought this is a very timely and very important subject, and we should not waste any time to delay it. We wanted it to be, do it before the holidays, before you will be spending your, a lot of money on the credit cards and using your shopping through the credit cards. We thought it would be very timely. So you all know we live in an era where technology is no longer just a tool. It's a very it is the very backbone of how we live, work, and do our business. Artificial intelligence, digital transformation, and cloud-based solutions have revolutionized the industry, enhanced efficiencies, and opened doors to opportunities we once only dream of. But with this incredible power comes the equally significant responsibility of protecting ourselves against threats that are evolving at an unprecedented pace. Did you know that 43% of the cyber attack target small businesses and high net worth individuals are increasingly becoming the prime targets for sophisticated phishing schemes, identity theft, and ransomware attacks in a digital driven world? Today, we are fortunate to have with us leading experts who will share actionable insights, tools, and strategies to safeguard your assets and reputation in the age of AI driven vulnerabilities. Over the next 1 hour, we will uncover how you can strengthen your defense, outpace cyber criminals, and build a security first mindset in your personal and professional lives. Before we dive in, let's take a moment to appreciate the importance of this dialogue. Cyber security is not just a technical challenge, it's a human one. By coming together as a community, we can outsmart the threats and ensure that our digital world remains a space for opportunity, innovation, and trust. Thank you all for prioritizing this important conversation today. Let's get started. I will invite Kanapati ji for his opening remark, and then Abhinav ji will be playing the video message of Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy. Thank you all for joining. Mr. Kanapati.
Thank you, Rakesh. Thank you all for spending the evening with us. This webinar was just when we met, myself, Rakesh ji, and Ravi met one of the NOSCOM visit in consulate Chicago. There was a delegation from India. Then we met during that occasion. Had the opportunity to meet all the three of us. Then we thought that the cybersecurity and the attack is one of the important subject that we need to address. So we need to thank Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy also. Only 2 days back, he yeah, and he uh, he preside an important event like this as part of his town hall meeting. That also he covered the cybersecurity only for the shopping. We along with federal officials and federal bank officials and some bigger media people. So they are also the same subject was discussed, but it was differently. It was addressed to some other groups, aged people, senior people, like that. But now our focus here is small and medium businesses and high worth individuals. How we can protect ourselves and how we have to take. What are the actions that we can take and all those things. I think Rakesh has already given enough introduction on the subject. So let me pass this one to Abhinavji for moderating this wonderful session. Thank you. Thank you all for joining with us. Then hope we'll be able to interact with each other, not just one-way communication. I think we'll be able to, throughout the session, we'll be able to interact with each other, and we need all your inputs on this important subject. Thank you, Rakeshji. Thank you, Abhinav. Abhinav, please take over.
Thank you, Ganpati-ji. Once again, thank you and welcome everyone for joining. And thank you for your valuable time, given this is a very important topic, and we appreciate you joining this evening. So let me start with playing Raja Krishnamurthy, because he couldn't really join because of all the good reason. And I have this video recording. Hopefully it plays well. So let me go back and play it from the beginning. Hope everybody can listen. So.
Hi everybody, I'm Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy. I want to say a special thank you to all of you for being here. I want to say a special thank you to Ganapati, Rakesh, and Ravi for convening today's Teams Global Summit. I wish I could be there in person, but unfortunately, I'm voting on the budget tonight. And so we're trying to do the people's business in Washington, D.C. Otherwise, I would be with you in person. I want to say Teams Global and your president, Ganapati, have done such a marvelous job of bringing Tamil entrepreneurs together and helping each other in very important ways, whether it's mentoring each other, whether it's referring business to each other, whether it is helping each other in enabling skills to be developed to do the projects that your clients require. You're helping each other, you're networking, you are making everybody stronger through your collective action. So I just want to say thank you. And as the only Tamil American in Congress, I take special pride in teaming with teams. So I can't wait to see all of you in person, hopefully under circumstances that permit us to have an extensive dialogue. But regardless, happy holidays to all of you. Thank you for allowing me to address you, and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy.
Absolutely. So let me go ahead and get started. So first of all, thank you once again, and I would say virtually thank you, Raja Krishnamurthy, for your insight. So before we get started, I think Rakesh ji and Ganpati ji has already talked about it. Definitely important topic. I didn't know a lot of things. I always assumed that cybersecurity and these threats are something the corporate should be worried about. I, as a simple consumer, who cares about me? But the fact is, no. We all have to be very careful about it. We have to be educated about it. There are definitely in this session you will know and hear and learn something very new that you should be taking care. We live in a modern age, modern world, as Rakesh said, comes with the cost, and the cost is that we have to be careful with our information, with our digital signatures, digital information, everything what we do, online transactions and everything. So we have to be very smart because there are smart people outside. Also, they are trying to steal your stuff. So it's a different world. So with that, I do want to introduce Ravi. Not take much time. And Ravi Vishwanathan has been in industry almost 28 years, working on the cybersecurity side of the world, compliance, risk governance, data privacy. You cannot get a better person to really talk about cybersecurity. Somebody that has been for 28 plus years and seen things from infancy, and a person who is heading right now the product security division in one of the largest sellers, which is Amazon. He's part of the payment security. So can't find better person talking about cybersecurity than him. So with that, I'll hand over to Ravi and let him kind of provide his insight. And I'll definitely ask some questions and keep this discussion live. I did get a lot of questions from you, so I'll do my best to kind of pick up some of those questions that you already have asked. And then later on, we'll have some time to really have a Q&A opened up. And if you don't mind, you can put a text in the chat questions, and we can still take as much as we can. And if we are not able to answer all the questions, I got your email IDs. I'm gonna forward that to Ravi, and he will do his best to really answer all your questions in the best possible way. So with that, Ravi, I'll hand over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Abhinav. Thank you, everybody, for joining this session. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I think we can see it, but if you can make the screen completely visible and take the all of us on the side, that would be better because both screens are showing up. So your slide looks half of the screen.
And 1 second.
Yeah, just make a presentation as a main theme and put everybody in the behind.
I don't know if I can do that, but what I'm going to do, this is full screen. Okay, hang on 1 second. Let me just share my screen again and I'll do a full screen mode. If that doesn't work, I don't want to waste time. I want to quickly get started.
Yes.
And then because we have like 18 slides and 42 minutes left. So I want to get to the meat of this very quickly. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go for it then. If anybody cannot see the screen or if you have any audio issues, please let us know. Jump in, and we'll do our best to address that. So thanks, everybody. My name is Ravi Viswanathan. I'm here to talk about a few things related to cybersecurity, primarily how to use cybersecurity to safeguard yourself as an individual. If you're a high net worth investor, how do you use cybersecurity to your advantage to protect yourself? Number 3, if you're a small business owner, how do you apply cybersecurity principles to make sure you're not one of the victims there, or at least try to avoid that risk? Lastly, if you're a corporate worker, how do you make sure you apply the risk principles there to protect yourself? So those are the 4 key areas. There are more related areas that we'll be talking about, but that's what we will be covering today. Here's the agenda. We'll do quick introductions about, primarily, I'm going to introduce myself here. We're going to be talking about the cyber risk around you. Like I said, the small businesses, the focus is more on the small businesses today. How do you protect, if you own a small business, it could be a recruiting company, it could be a consulting company, it could be anything. How do you protect yourself? High net worth investors, right? Now, these are the common people that are targets these days for cyber attacks. So we're going to focus a little bit on them. also talk about online shopping. So Mr. Rakesh had earlier indicated about people using their credit cards more during holiday season. So we'll share some tips on how to protect yourself from these common risks that are going on these days. Okay? And then we'll do Q&A. We'll try to address. I'll try to see if I can speed up as much as I can, so the Q&A can be like 10 minutes. But we'll see what we can do. Okay. So the intended audience, we covered that. Business owners, high net worth individuals, online shoppers, corporate workers. So that's the intended audience for this session. What can you expect from this next 42 minutes? You're going to be learning about something. We'll all learn together. If you know something that will help others, please raise that. Open the chat and then just type in things that you want to share with others. We'll all learn from each other that way. We want to focus on understanding the risks. And then by the end of this presentation, we'll give you a takeaway. If you're, these 4 personas that you see on top, you will see how to apply. If you're one of those personas, or if you have multiple personas, what do you take away from this 40-minute discussion? So that's what we will leave you with. Here's a little about me. I have majority of my career is in cybersecurity, compliance, risk governance, data privacy. Primarily in fintech, banking, automotive, and most recently in the e-commerce sector. So in my current role, I'm a product security head for a payment security at Amazon. And what I do is we deal with about 12 business units across the globe: India Pay, Middle East and North Africa Pay, Amazon Payment Experience, Buy Now, Pay Later. So we look at a variety of use cases. And I see fraud in anti-money laundering, sanction screening. How do you apply these cybersecurity? What kind of threats that we get on our payment side, and how do you protect these payments businesses across the globe? So my organization is responsible to protect about 1 trillion payment assets across the globe. So you imagine the kind of security risks that we see on a day-to-day basis. So what we've done is we've taken these risks and applied these large-scale risks to small and medium-sized businesses and also individuals, and see how we can apply those principles to ourselves and protect ourselves. So that's the theme here. My background, prior to that, I worked at Bank of Montreal. I was a product security head. I was in product security for Abbott in Chicago, where my role was protecting connected medical devices. So we all know how, my mom is a diabetic. So she pricks, she pricks herself to get insulin levels, read her insulin levels. So these days we don't need to do that because we have something called Freestyle Libre from Abbott. So that product, it's called a connected medical device, so that you attach a patch on your arm that will continuously monitor your blood glucose levels. And this has got an operating system. It'll have NFC channel communication with the laboratory information system, and it's got a database. It's got everything. It does all the communication via cloud. And my job there was to protect these devices against any potential cyber attacks. So we were working, my org was responsible to get the CBER submissions, post-market and pre-market approvals from FDA, so we can release the product and sell this in US and across the globe. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is product cybersecurity is an emerging area. And it's also got a lot of nuances where it's growing with the help of AI these days. So it's an exciting area, and some of the things that we'll be talking about is also on the product security. That's about my profession. I'm born and raised in India, in Chennai. Been here in Chicago for the last 20 years. So that's that. One cool thing about me is I love Bikram Hot Yoga. So if anybody here in the audience is a fan of Bikram Hot Yoga, let me know. I would love to talk to you. I practice here in Naperville. I used to be a yoga teacher before, but not anymore. But happy to talk to you about yoga and other things. So that's me. Let's move on. So let's talk about cyber risks on sensitive data. So the entire conversation today is focusing on a single theme, and we will hit that theme in every single slide that you're going to see, starting here. So we talked about those different personas before: the online shopper, the business owner, high net worth individuals, and corporate workers, right? So each of these persona have a set of data types. Like if you take the first group, you will see name, address, phone number, credit cards. Their medical data itself is a commodity. It's sensitive data. Its medical data is called PHI, personal health information, and the rest of them, some of them are PII, personally identifiable information, and credit card number, gift card numbers are payment critical information. So these are all sensitive data that we should be protecting. Business owners, have a different set of data that they go through. That's called sensitive information. So if you're a recruiting company, if you're a consulting company, if you're handling your candidates' social security numbers, their date of birth, their immigration information, that you're collecting sensitive information. So basically what that means is you have a fiduciary responsibility to protect those information, right? High net worth individuals. So you guys, we have tax returns, you have investment portfolios, your health record is highly, highly valuable. We'll cover that shortly in the coming slides. Corporate workers deal with company confidential information. So these are all, so the reason why I'm bringing this here is there's a theme behind this. We'll get through that theme, but sensitive information needs to be protected, and you have to treat that like currency. So that's the point of this slide. So what happens if that sensitive information is mishandled or if that gets compromised? So you see these 5 types of risks that are the reality that you will face potentially if that sensitive information goes into the wrong hands. Example, I'll quickly jump in with two risks here. Data privacy and compliance violations. So basically, if you let's say you handle social security numbers of your customers, and let's say 1,000 social security numbers is lost, or you put them into a thumb drive, you take an Uber, and you drop your thumb drive there. The cab driver takes that thumb drive, puts them on his computer, and then downloads this and does some kind of things that he's not supposed to do. You are at risk, and that'll come back and bite you in terms of legal and regulatory damage. Insider risk. That is a place. So what is insider risk? Is like we all, some folks here are entrepreneurs, or we might be working at a corporation or for another firm. Insider risk is basically if you're an entrepreneur, your employees working for you, but they'll, if they take your company information, sell it to your competitor, and then jump ship, right? So that's an example of an insider risk, and the damage that will cause your business is, you'll have monetary damage, but also there's reputational damage, right? So there are repercussions of these the sensitive data getting exfiltrated out, going into the wrong hands, and then we suffer the consequences. So there are third-party risks. There's loss of trade secrets and IP theft. So IP theft, if I used to work for Abbott, so there we had scientists working on some big formulas for the next drug discovery that they're working on. The problem there is we were aware of nation state actors. We want to try and figure out. So I'll give you some examples. High-risk country folks, Russia, China, North Korea, sanctioned countries. So these guys, Iranians, so these folks have hardened cyber criminals that'll go after these large companies and pull in that IP, get that IP address. Get the IP from these large corporations and then create their own drug. So what happens is they'll try to find ways to do low and slow evasion to evade these DLP, data loss prevention controls, and other controls, network controls that we have. So let's say if you have 10 gig worth of data, that's about all the technical architecture diagram for new drug discovery that we're working on. What they'll do is they'll take 10 MB of that, right? These nation state actors, and they'll evade all the antivirus detections, network detections, cloud detections. They'll slowly exfiltrate that data, pivot that out of the network, and they do it in about 3 months' time, 6 months' time. So they'll evade all the controls that we have. Nobody will know. Eventually, in 3 months, they'll gather all the entire 10 gig worth of data. Now they have that complete information. Now they can refabricate that and then sell that in the underground market, or come up with a new product by themselves. So this is an example of IP theft. So this is happening in large companies, but this can also impact smaller companies, like a small and medium-sized business in a smaller scale. So that's the idea behind this slide in terms of risk.
Ravi, if I intervene here, I see there's a term called phishing. So I used to think phishing was always going to a lake for fishing, but looks like in this world, phishing is. So can you just talk about a little bit about this phishing and ransomware? I've heard about it a lot, and maybe throw some light how we as a regular consumer, what's the phishing?
Thank you. So thanks, Abhinav, for reminding me there. So how many of you click that QR link that you see on the screen here? So you will know what phishing is. And I'm using this as a teachable moment to draw some attention to phishing. And thanks to Abhinav for reminding us on that. People, you can do a variety of ways to do phishing. Phishing has been there in the industry for the last 10 years now. Email phishing is quite common. QR code phishing is happening these days. Phishing is basically duping you, an end user, to click on a link, and you think that you're going into www.microsoft.com, but you're not going to www.microsoft.com, but you're instead going to www.badsite.com, a different site that the attacker wants you to go towards. That's phishing. So basically what we did here is we want to draw that attention to people and use this as a teachable moment to avoid phishing. So be wary of clicking QR code, clicking on links, QR codes. So that's the
Thanks, Ravi. Actually gave us a very practical, because I just got phished by you, so I was able to scan it. I realized that leads to a different website, and thankfully you're not taking my data here. But yes, it's a good way to learn. Actually, thank you.
Right. We are all in a safe environment, so this is just a mock exercise, right? Just so we will remember this after this call too. Like, okay, so this will carry on with our lives as well. So that's the intention there. Harmless, very, very, all good intentions with everybody. Okay, let's move on. So this slide talks about. We've been talking about these theoretical risks, but I want to share through this slide. These risks are not just theoretical; these are real news that's happened in the recent past. So if you look at this, going back to the comment Mr. Rakesh made earlier about SMBs, small and medium-sized businesses experiencing cyber attack, 73% of small and medium-sized businesses are experiencing cyber attack as of 2023 ITRC report, right? And the second thing is Courier Group, which is a staffing company. They had a ransomware attack in 2021 that impacted about 49,000 records. That's another data point. The last data point is about Krispy Kreme. This is just a week old. I think last week, Krispy Kreme had an unauthorized activity on their online orders. So their online orders were impacted. So basically what we're trying to communicate from this slide is cyber attacks are real. They are impacting everybody around us, including us. And every day goes, there is some kind of a cyber attack happening in the industry. So we all, this is like in the last 10 years, across the various corporations that I've worked with, one of the things that when we do the strategy exercise for the year, we'll say it's not about if we will get attacked. It's a question of when will we get attacked. When we get attacked, we need to be prepared for it. So that happens, that'll happen to us also, and we need to be a little bit more vigilant and careful about a potential impact to us. And then that's the purpose of this discussion. Okay. Now the question is, why do small and medium-sized businesses don't invest in cyber? So you got several of these reasons that we could think of or added here. There could be more, right? But these are some samples. They probably don't have awareness. There is limited budget. Number 3, misconception about risk. So SMBs believe they are less likely to be attacked compared to larger corporations. So we just shared a news article that said 73% of SMBs have been attacked as of a 2021 report. So there is some reality here. Maybe there are some places where the report is exaggerating, but at least we can say 50% is definitely a realistic number, right? And then I strongly believe in this one, resource shortages. In the last 10 years, cybersecurity talent for large corporations has been a big problem. I, as a hiring manager, I had a lot of problems hiring the right level of high quality talent for cyber, and it's continuing forward. We're going to have that problem for the next 2 to 3 years continuing forward. But AI will offset some of those problems. Like when we do some kind of penetration testing, security risk assessments, etc. Part of it can be front loaded through AI. At least we're hoping some of those problems. If we spend $400 on something, we'll probably spend $200 going forward.
Sorry, phone से एक Zoom meeting mandatory हो गया, friends का कोई security.
Okay, thank you. All right. So resource shortage is there. And focus is also on short-term gains. We will, if you're a small business, you don't have a cybersecurity budget, which is, practical, understandable. So that's why we want to share with you some ideas on how to protect your business with minimal cost. Okay, so this one is driving home the point, one central point. Your data is currency. So in the deep web, dark web, right? Social security numbers, all of our social security numbers are going for $5 a piece. Your health records are going for up to $1,000 per record. And your corporate login credentials up to $10,000.
So Ravi, I'm sorry to intervene because this is very surprising to me when I see this data element actually. Because I thought Social Security would have been the highest cost element, but here I can see it's only for $1 and $5, whereas my health record is like $1,000, and then I see corporate. I can understand corporate, but this equation is. I just want to understand how is this equation? How is this health record so important?
Absolutely, very good question, Abhinav. Thank you for reminding us the importance of your question here. I think so. These are all different kinds of fraud, right? If I can get hold of your social security number, I can do identity theft. If I can get hold of your medical records or your health records, right? What happens is I can use that record, I can use that information to file insurance fraud. Let's say you're getting pension from some corporation, whatever, or you're a government employee. I can claim death benefits, and if you're and do some forgery for the life of that person. I can get insurance money from, or if you're on food stamp, there are ways to dupe the system and milk money from the appropriate authorities. So that's why, this goes on for the life of that person, compared to a social security fraud where You'll find it out. Sorry, go ahead.
I think there was nothing. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so the difference here is there is a larger amount of money to be made in the health record fraud compared to social security fraud. So it's all dependent on money. The factor is, we are driving home the point. Data is currency, and currency value. Every month I can get that insurance money or pension money from the appropriate authorities, which is more of a revenue builder compared to that first line on social security number. So that's the brief explanation there.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Okay, thank you for that question, Abhinav. Okay, let's move on now. So I think what we've understood so far is risk. Data is currency, and these risks are real. Number 3, these risks will impact all of us, are impacting currently all of us. Whatever job, whatever persona of life we are, putting ourselves in. It could be online shopper, it could be a high net worth investor, it could be, an SMB owner. It could be anything, but it's impacting all of us equally. So, and we are also considerate of the fact that we're not large corporations. All of us are very normal people. Like we need to figure out ways to address this in the most cost-effective manner. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So feel free, guys. We'll give you a key takeaway at the end, so you don't have to take notes or anything. Feel free to jot down your thoughts in the chat too. So Abhinav can monitor that, and we'll engage on the right questions during the chat if we can, or during the Q&A, or even after that. Okay, so let's talk about solutions here. We talked about problems. Let's talk about solutions. So I think we have another 18 minutes, or 8 minutes for me to complete, and 10 minutes for Q&A. All right, let's quickly rush through this. There are about 8 solutions here. Security training. If you're a business owner, right? My recommendation would be to have a mandatory annual training on security training for all your employees. Number 2, prioritize on high-risk employees. And the training, it's really difficult to focus on everything under the sun. It's so difficult. So the best thing that you can do is have an acceptable use policy that says you're not supposed to do these 10 things. But anything else, I don't care, but do it in moderation, be careful, use your best judgment. But these 10 things are absolutely no-go for my business. Your business could be, that 10 things, you would have to sit and decide what it is. But there are ways you could get some help, but that avoiding sending, an example could be never, ever, ever send emails, send social security numbers, date of birth, PII, personally identifiable information, PHI of your customers via email. That could be your do not do list in your security training. On that note, I have
So Ravi, I'm sorry, I have a question here quickly. This is probably a question that a lot of people have been asked, or it comes to their mind. We receive tons of emails every day, right? Now, sending information to someone from our side, we have to be careful. As you said, I never send those sensitive informations. If you're sending, you do password protected and stuff like that. But we get tons of emails. And then how do I make sure that I'm getting a legitimate email, right email, not from somebody which I accidentally click and then I'm completely taken over by someone. So how do I have that kind of practice that I follow, or what should be the do's and don'ts when I receive such kind of emails? What should trigger a red flag saying, hey, you know what, this email doesn't look good? What could be those that one has to keep in mind?
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that question. So 2 things, right? Ensuring you don't click on links that you don't know what they are about. If the sender is unfamiliar, or you don't even recognize that email, never click that email. Let it go. It's going to cause more harm than good for you by clicking an unknown link or QR code. That's one. Okay. Number 2, you also raised a point about man-in-the-middle attacks. Somebody, let's say you're doing some invoice processing, and you're sending the email. You send an email, or you're getting an email from somebody else, but you don't know for sure the person that sent the email is the person that the email is coming from. Basically, a man-in-the-middle attack or somebody spoofing that email. So that's something that's definitely prevalent in the industry. So maybe I want to bring in Susindran. I don't know if you're on the call. If you're on the call, can you sort of share your thought, 30-second, please, and bring it back to me because I have 6 minutes to complete the remainder of the slides that I have.
Sure, thanks, Ravi. Sorry, I'm not on camera. I have multiple videos, so I'm just going with that. Definitely, what you touched upon is very important. And many of the staffing companies or consulting companies I've spoken with, the first thing they say is, "Hey, I have no data to secure," and which is kind of what you explained in detail, right? What is required. And coming into detail, the email service or the security what we provide is on the spamming and man in the middle and phishing and all of that. So there's a SMB product what we have launched, and we are servicing small clients where end to end we can kind of connect and then take care of monitoring and responding and blocking when such a thing happens. And especially recent times, I'm sure many of them in this call would have seen is somebody claiming to be their client and sending, "Hey, this is a new invoice. Can you pay me here on this link?" and so on, which gets notified. And you would be surprised at the number of calls I get every week to say, "Hey, we lost money. Can you come and help us?" and so on. So we definitely have very good control over that, and we're reaching out to most of the SMBs now saying, "Don't say you don't have any data. This is your data, right? Your customers or your employees and all the resumes, what you have is data." So definitely look forward to reaching out to people and seeing or addressing people's queries on that part. So back to you, Ravi.
Awesome. Thank you, Susindran. So Susindran's point is there are products available that'll ensure the non-repudiation factor, we call it in the industry. It's more the verification of the person who sent that email is the actual person and not somebody else. So thank you, Susindran, for sharing that views on that. Okay, so let's move on. Second objective here, ensure your work and personal aspects are completely separated if you're a small business owner. That'll solve a lot of problems, meaning your personal emails should be only doing personal stuff. Your work emails should only be doing work stuff. Never mix these two. There's always a problem that you may not see in the beginning, but later down the line, there'll be some place you would have done a mistake, and that'll come back and bite you. So keep that separate. Number two, ensure that you use your assets. Your physical assets are also separated. Your work asset and your personal asset should be completely separate. Like work laptop, you should not use for personal stuff and vice versa. Disable mail forwarding. This is common. Enabling multi-factor authentication for all sensitive transactions is extremely important these days. Lastly, change default passwords. Like, when we buy routers, home routers, right? Netgear and others, they come with, some of them, I think even these days, come with default passwords. Change them immediately. Never use manufacturer provided passwords. That's an easy entry point for an attacker. Okay. Third point is important, using secure file sharing services. As we shared earlier, right? Never share confidential information, sensitive information via emails. Emails are, it's easy to forge emails, and especially if you're using public email systems. And also, emails should never be carrying sensitive information, because if your passwords are compromised, somebody finds your passwords, they'll be able to have access to everything that you have in your folders. So instead, use an access controlled solutions like Citrix File Share, G Drive, Box, Dropbox, etc. That's one. Using password manager tool, like these days we are inundated with too many passwords, right? Find a way to use, reduce your load and have distinct individual passwords, or maybe set passwords by team. So this is all entertainment systems like movie tickets or Uber, this and that. Those will have a separate set of passwords. Financial stuff will have a separate set of passwords. At least separate them So, and you use a password manager tool. So that's going to give you a better leverage than reusing passwords on multiple sites. Because if one site is hacked, you're risking yourself, to downstream activities getting impacted or downstream systems getting impacted. Data retention policy. This is an important one. It'll take me 30 seconds to explain this. So you have a liability to protect all the sensitive information for your customers, right? Now, as your liability increases, your cost also increases. So meaning, if I'm protecting the last 10 years worth of information of my customers, the question that you need to ask is that required? So you can get in touch with your attorneys or legal department or get some legal advice and figure out what is your requirement to hold, how long do you need to protect your customers?
Couple now clean ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
Sorry. Okay. All right. Thanks. Thank you. Finding that point up till which you need to protect your customer information is important. So you'll get that through legal advice. So beyond that point, like, any data after 3 years old, just delete them if your legal team is okay with that. So that way, you're not securing those, and you don't have liability to protect them. So if it gets lost or if it gets stolen, it's you are on the job there. So instead, if you delete them, you can be free. So that's what this data retention policy is about. So figure out how long your business sensitive data needs to be protected by you, and then have a policy to ensure that every year you just delete things that you don't need. That way your cost is reduced and your liability is also reduced. So that's about data retention policy.
One quick interjection, sorry. When we delete the data, right, the data is also going to sit somewhere. So do you recommend some steps while we are deleting our individual high network individuals or the corporation? When we do the deletion, where are we going to, store that deleted files, or how do we clear it so that it should go out of the system?
So yeah, thank you, Rakesh, for that question. So I think my assumption here is we're pushing everything into cloud. And then we probably can have a offline backup on our side. That's physical drive that we have. But assumption here is we're all in 2024. Nobody's using physical hard drives, etc., like a backup system, etc., on site. Everything is going to the cloud. So if your cloud data gets deleted, they'll have appropriate procedures to do cleanup on their end. I'm not even going to go into DoD wipes, making sure the data is really deleted. Those are older concepts, but keeping things on, my recommendation here is to keep everything on cloud and then just delete things that you don't need on the cloud. And the cloud provider will take care of all the cleanup activities and other legalities associated with that. Did that answer your question?
It did. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. And then implementing a social media policy, that's again, focus on what not to do. And then implementing security clause in contracts. This, guys, is extremely important, because when you're working with third parties, right, your house could be clean. You probably have the highest level of cyber hygiene, but your partners, your downstream partners or upstream partners that you do business with, if they don't practice appropriate cyber hygiene, that'll come back and bite you. The way you protect yourself is to have proper security clauses in your SOWs, in your MSLA, saying, in the event of a security issue, I'm only responsible for these, and everything else is yours. There are smart ways to do that, so pay attention there. That's important. Lastly, purchasing cyber liability insurance. Plan for the worst case and purchase the liability insurance in case you get dinged. And that's an expensive. That's why we put it at the end. That's an expensive proposition for small businesses, but there are ways to negotiate with your insurance providers and find ways, to reduce your cost. So I'm going to quickly jump into the next slide, because we're under a time crunch. Okay, 5 more minutes. Zero cost to online shoppers. So these are some of these points are already they're pretty common, not too fancy. I'll quickly go through them. Review credit cards, credit scores, explanation of benefits. That this EOB, Mr. Ganapathy brought it earlier. We stole this from Congressman's presentation earlier this week. So they said one of the ways medical frauds are happening these days is this is an authoritative information from the Congressman's office, which is we go to healthcare providers, we go to we do our blood sample work, and then we come back, right? Annual physical checkup, whatever. And then what happens is there are agencies that snoop around our healthcare information, and then they say, hey, they did this lab work, etc. And people forget to pay attention to their explanation of benefits. So what they do is this is insurance fraud. They try to steal money. If you're older people that fail to look at explanation of benefits, they say they did some more tests in their labs, which never happened, and they claim money there. So the way to catch that is through reviewing your EOBs. So that's on the medical side, but on the financial side, review your credit cards. Did I say review your credit cards annually? That should be monthly. Sorry. Review your credit cards monthly and your credit scores annually, and your Social Security balance statements annually. So that's an important one. Avoiding public Wi-Fi is important. Using a dedicated.
I'm sorry. So I know you don't have much time, but public Wi-Fi, we all hop on and love to have public Wi-Fi, which is free. And when you're saying avoid those, like if I'm sitting in airport, I would love to have a free Wi-Fi there. Then here you're saying avoid it. Now, what's the best we should do then in that case? It will be a question everybody will ask.
I preach this, but I also, I'm not perfect. I do the same thing too. I sometimes use the public Wi-Fi, but when I do that, what I make sure I do not do is I don't access any of confidential information during that time. Maybe I'll watch the CNN news or I'll go to YouTube and play some videos to, while I wait for a flight in the airport, whatever. But I'll never check my bank account or other sensitive information. So at least try to avoid that. Try to avoiding doing any sensitive transactions when you're in unfamiliar Wi-Fi.
Ravi, I have one input. Okay, so this is Ravi Karamsetti. So the best is to use secure VPN. So if you are often going to use public Wi-Fi, best is to have a secure VPN. So at least the data is actually encrypted in transit.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
That is true. This is Girish. I travel a lot to India, and whenever I do my work, I basically open my secure VPN even in India, because over there the controls of cybersecurity is not that great. So it's always better to have a secure VPN, especially when you're not in your own country like the US. I think that's the best option to do.
Very good points. Thank you, Ravi Karamsetti. And who's the other gentleman?
Girish.
Thank you, Girish. Okay, cool. Using virtual credit cards, that's another good segue during holiday shopping season. Rakesh said earlier, we want to purchase a lot during, we do online transactions a lot, right? So using virtual credit cards, Citi does that. That helps alleviate a lot of fraud concerns during our shopping. So see if that's possible. Use online password manager. We talked about that earlier. Enabling MFA, that's a given these days. Make sure that's always done. High net worth individuals. The other points here, I'll let you absorb it. Maybe let me give 5 seconds for you to read through the titles quickly. I'll talk about one important thing here. Okay, the core important thing that I wanted to highlight here in this slide is freezing your retirement account. There are some companies, I don't know specifically, Fidelity, Vanguard, there are companies that can do, so let's say you're not in the retirement age yet, okay, and you have money socked up in your retirement accounts, you can put a lock on them. like, certain accounts, I'm not going to be frequently transacting them on those accounts. So you can ask the fiduciary owner of that of that funds to say, put a lock on them. I'll unlock by passive. When I want to do some active trading, I can unlock it. So see if your investment companies do that for you. If they do it, it's a great feature to have to minimize any fraudulent activities. The rest of them are pretty common. I'm not going to go into that due to time constraint. Zero cost solutions to corporate workers. Okay, the reason why I want to, okay, let me give another 5 seconds for you to quickly scan through this. Okay. The most important point, actually 2 points are most important here. If you're a corporate worker, right, know that every single activity on your computer, on your company provided laptops or desktops, company provided phones can be tapped into. That's a very, your emails are transparent. I can see every single email that you send. People can, in my prior job at a bank, I was responsible for insider risk management. So, we had taps into every single places where there are some high risks from employees, contractors, suppliers, vendors that work with us. So that's the lesson learned there. Make sure you don't forward emails to your personal email accounts from your work, and don't assume that you can take all your company work with you when you exit the company. So that's, most of us know that, but I'm just sharing that just in case, right? And then this is another strategy on the left side, using a burner account for non-essential accounts, burner email for non-essential accounts. Create a burner email, create a burner phone number, and use them for all non-essential activities. That'll reduce a lot of spam in your primary email and primary phone number. So that's something that, some of us will find it handy. Okay, now let me go to the next slide. We are coming to the tail end, the last 2 slides, emerging cyber AI trends. These are some of the things that I thought would be of some value. There's more probably, but what's happening these days is, in terms of what is emerging, what should we be aware of, what should we do more of? Every single dinner conversation that I attend these days are, AI is always a topic. So the companies are spending a lot of money, at up to 15%, global Fortune 100s, of their 15% of their IT budgets in AI. So for what does it mean for, people like you and me? Let's upskill upskill on AI. Rise in third-party risks. So that trend is increasing, meaning like going back to our old point, right? Our house could be clean, but what if our neighbor's house is bad and we need to do business with our neighbors? That's the third-party risk that we're talking about. The way to protect yourself is using contracts, cyber contracts, or having clauses, security clauses in your contracts. Rise in AI-powered threats. So I see this day in and day out in the e-commerce side, and fraud, and anti-money laundering, and sanction screening, and others. We are using good bots to defend against bad bots. So that's what's happening right now. Basically, what this means is, bad bots can decimate us in fractions of a second. They can just put a ransomware lock, and they'll cripple our businesses. So taking the appropriate measures. Before, it used to be humans defending against humans, but now, and after that, it's humans defending against bots, but now it's just bots against bots. So the speed of attack can be extremely, extremely fast. That's something that we need to anticipate. Next one, contactless payments are on the rise. So buy now, pay later. Gone are the days cash, currency, checks. These are coming down, and we're spending more in terms of the technology is trending towards digital wallets, contactless payments, high RTP, low RTP, BNPL. So the message there is embracing the change. in the next 2-3 years,
I do have a
online.
question here. I'm sorry. So when you say contactless payments and different payment methods, I know things are changing. A lot of people are using Apple Pays and stuff like that. But now holidays are coming up. Right now, people are spending a lot of money going to either doing online shopping or they go to stores and all. So, what is the best thing for us to do now as a consumer, right? I was as you and me, protect ourselves when we are going to shopping now because this is the time I think
Sure.
everybody is doing and I'm sure you have got to be careful about it. So what is your advice on this for all
One
of us?
quick one, yeah, but now one quick one, quick thought, right? I don't know if it's an advice, but it's a practical, experiential truth that I've realized myself. If you have an app on your phone that uses passwords to log in or passwords to pay, right? I'll give you a simple example: Subway app or Domino's app for pizza, whatever, right? The way I pay on those is I use my wallet to pay, Apple Pay to pay them. And I don't use a password or I don't store my credit cards in the app to pay. That's more secure than storing my credit card there. And I've experienced this practically, and I won't go into details there. So that's one smart way to do the payment, because if you're using your digital wallet to pay, and if you're storing the card there, and if the card could be stolen, or if you're using your user ID and password to log into that application on your computer, and if that password got stolen, somebody else could use your password and use that credit card that you have on file. But with digital wallet, that cannot happen. So that's a small trick that we can use. Okay. So all right, so let's move on. Rise in online fraud. This is happening, and in the online threats are increasing. In the next 2 to 3 years, we'll see more of that, and there are more companies spending money, time, and investment in attacking these problems. So that's for awareness. Lastly, security tips for the holidays. We talked about using virtual credit cards, enabling multi-factor authentication, not clicking on unknown links, freezing unused accounts. So that's all I have. Sorry, I think 8 minutes over. Apologies for being over the time. But the theme here that I wanted that we've been hitting every single slide is at the end here. Your data is currency. Gone are the days we think cash or is currency. No, your data is worth a lot of money. So protect it. So thank you, everybody. That's all we wanted to cover here. Sorry, I was rushing through things, but if there are any questions, maybe I'll punt it to you. Let me know.
Thank you, Ravi. In fact, we are running a little late, but then thank you, Abhinav and Ravijit. We do have some very interesting questions also. I'm not sure, Abhinavji, would you like to read this question, and do we have a time, or we would like to address
Maybe
these
Rakesh, if you
questions?
have, I was not watching. If you have a couple of them you read them, maybe you can read those and see.
I
We
can
can pick
read
up
one or two
few of
questions
them.
quickly, and I think we will ask Ravi to then comment. One question I have, which I think Ravi has covered appropriately from Aparna Rai: how can small businesses, startups protect themselves from cyber attacks on a limited budget? Any recommendation for free or affordable security tools or antivirus? I think you have covered this, but Ravi will comment. I can read 2-3 more questions, and then you can make one quick comment.
Sounds
we have
good.
a question
Very
from
quickly.
Girish Kapoor. What measure is AWS implementing to secure SMB, small and medium business owners, and do you recommend using additional tools to enhance data security on AWS? And then we have a couple of questions from Ganesh Radhakrishnan. He said, I understand you covered a lot on ransomware, phishing attacks, and social engineering. How about these 2 years? And it's a very important question, I guess. How about these two areas, supply chain attacks and advanced persistent threats, APTs, where SMB get attacked the most? I think this is good enough to begin with. And Ravi, you can comment, and we can, address the rest of the questions, when we respond in the form of a white paper or 2-page presentation, because our goal as a global Indian diaspora or as a team, which is an entrepreneur-led organization, primarily to outsmart such threats with the presence of people or experts like Ravi. And there are many in the audience who are experts. We will be seeking your views, and shortly, I think in next 2 months or so, we will doing in-person webinar also. But for now, I will ask Ravi to quickly comment, and happy holidays and thank you everyone for joining us. Before we conclude, Ravi can answer quickly.
Sounds good, Rakesh. All right. Very quickly, right? So like Mr. Rakesh shared, right? There are a lot of experts on the call too, right? This is just my opinion. There are more ways to slice and dice this question and think about this differently. But first question on the antivirus for small business and stuff, right? Cost is a factor for us, right? If you're a small business, I think the way to go about this is I don't trust any antivirus these days. So I would rather, my preference is to use Google Chromebooks, right? Hard disk-less Chromebooks. So I don't have to worry about other things. Everything's on cloud. That'll be one view here. There could be other views, right? But that's one thought there. So I'll quickly move to the next question. AWS for SMB owners. I don't know. I'm a small fish, small fry in a large, a small boat in a large ocean, right? There might be some programs there, but for small and medium-sized businesses. But what I do know is handling your business on cloud simplifies a lot of things. And I'm not saying this as an Amazon stakeholder, but it's more of my own preference. And I've come to embrace this, cloud first mode for personal and professional life, right? So it makes a lot of things easier that way. I know it's a clumsy response, but in the short time, that's all I can think of, right? Next question is on the supply chain attacks and APTs. Advanced persistent threats, right? So I've seen a lot of APTs across large Fortune 100s where you bring in your basic AV tools are useless. They're totally useless for APTs. And I bring in FireEye Mandiant, I run a scan. I see a lot of things that I normally don't see in my regular life, right? And you will see, how many people are trying to attack, and we will have no clue in terms of what information is being stolen. And when you see the logs, when you see the network detections flowing through, and we talked about the low and slow attacks before. So supply chains and APTs are very, very closely related, but it's the worth of that data, where the data is in how obvious it is. There are detectors that we can use to, figure out, where the APTs are present in the network and put some appropriate, evasive controls to steer the direction into different ways. But from a small business SMB perspective, right? I have not come across, my majority of my career has been in Fortune 100s, whether fortunate or unfortunate, I don't know. So I don't know. I don't have experience with SMBs being hit with APTs. When I say SMB, I'm referring to companies less than 20,000 employees, in one continent or across the globe. So I don't have experience there, but I have a lot of experience actually combating, getting into a war room situation and handling, giving the boardroom some kind of insights into what is the problem and what we're working on towards resolving, and what's the containment strategy and what's the next step in terms of preventing these from happening. So I'm not able to comment on the SMB side since I don't have experience there. Okay, so with that, let me. Sorry if there are more. I would love to talk to you. If there are more, if you'd like to talk about these questions, or if you have more questions, feel free to engage me. I'll share what I know. If I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. Okay. All right.
Well,
thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Ravi. And I know this is such a, such a detailed subject, and 1 hour is not enough. As I said, we'll do our best to do a follow-up on this. And I think I will take this opportunity to thank Mr. Kanapati, the entire teams, and the Tamil entrepreneurs, Ravi and Abhinav, and all the wonderful participants, community leader who have not taken the time out during the holiday period. It is such a good thing that, as a community, if we can come together and outsmart these threats, that is the great thing we can do. And before we conclude, I will ask Ganapati ji to say thank you to everyone, and thank you all and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for spending your evening with us. Hope this is a good learning startup. And also, we are planning to have one, if time permits, in January or something like that. We are planning to have one in-person session. We welcome you all there. Thank you for joining with us. Happy holidays. And if you are not meeting in person, prosperous New Year as well. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you again.
everyone.
Thank you,
Happy New
everyone.
Year.
Thank you for your time. Happy New Year.